Seox's total HP value has been reduced. Instead of being 16,000, which is effectively the average and most common life total in the game, it is now at 14,000, tying Seox with Avatar Belial for having the lowest life in the game. This is a pretty substantial nerf. While there are some system mechanic changes that mean there is going to be less damage in the game overall, many characters also saw buffs to their combo routes, which give them more damage in their own kit system as opposed to relying on the system mechanics for it. So Seox dying faster, especially considering the fact that he largely plays at the mid-range and also wants to get up close to run his offense, means that he is definitely going to be feeling this nerf quite a bit. Dying faster means he's more likely to lose in a lot of situations, and he has to be a little more considerate with how he is going to leverage his life in his decision-making. His dash has been adjusted a little bit. The initial speed and the acceleration are now faster. This is what it looks like now. And this is what it used to look like. It's a little bit notable. He's going to appreciate being able to close in on the opponent a lot faster, especially considering that some of his other approach tools have been nerfed, so this feels more like a compensation than anything else. Seox's close heavy builds less SBA gauge than it used to. Previously, you could get about 9% with this. This is how much gauge it currently builds. So, a nerf of 1%, it's really non-consequential, arguably. His dash-heavy attacks see some buffs. The travel speed and distance have been increased. This was its old properties. Seox does appreciate this buff since he is able to combo off of this move on normal or counter hit, as well as being relatively safe on block. He is -8, but he is technically spaced out a bit, so depending on the matchup, he's safe against some of the enemy's follow-up attacks, or he can get punished, depends on the situation and distance. The ultimate version of Six Claw Execution sees a couple of buffs. The knockback when hitting high in the air has been adjusted, and the frame advantage on hit in the same situation has been increased. This is what it looked like before. You were plus 30 in this situation, and this is what it looks like now. Plus 45 now. I imagine that this is namely here as a means to give him a better knockdown when he's using this against an opponent that he's juggling and has them at a little higher heights than he'd like. All versions of his Wolf's Howl, one of his Six Claw Execution follow-ups, have been buffed, probably to make them more attractive for him to choose in combo routes. The light version only has one change. The damage has been increased. It now deals 800 damage instead of 600 damage. It's a small buff, but I'm sure it's one that he appreciates. The medium versions of Wolf Howl has a couple of changes. It also has a damage increase. A little more significant than the light version, though. Instead of dealing 1100 damage, it now deals 1400 damage. Additionally, its knockback has been adjusted, namely with the lateral knockback and the launch height are now increased. This is going to help him get a little bit more corner carry in a lot of situations. Let's compare it to how it used to look. This is how it used to look. You'll also note that previously the frame advantage after this was plus 21, and in the current patch it's now plus 25. So he gets 4 extra frames of advantage on this knockdown. It's not a huge deal, but still, having extra frames for a knockdown means that he's able to threaten other options and improve his meaty game. To further incentivize using the medium version of Wolf's Howl, there's now a wall bounce on counter hit. Before, if you used this to try to frame trap the opponent, which would namely work against them trying to brave counter you, you didn't really get too much for it. Just a simple knockdown was all you got before. Now, in this situation, you're able to get more damage. In mid-screen, it feels a little tricky to find a link. So far, I've been able to make 6.6L as well as the ultimate version of Six Claw Execution work.
Great. Excellent.
And of course, when you're closer to the corner, you can get a full combo.
Great.
I namely bring up the example of a brave counter interaction here because if the opponent just chooses to mash on you outright, you will lose in this attempt to frame trap them. But of course, Seox has other tools in his kit to dissuade this. So really, because of this, the opponent is more or less incentivized to try to go for a brave counter at some point against the Six Claw execution pressure. So you can think of this medium Wolf's Howl as a new tool against it. The heavy version of Wolf Howl basically has all of these buffs as well. The damage has been increased from 1100 to 1400. It has greater lateral knockback and launch height, and it now also causes a wall bounce. This gives Seox a lot more combo utility as he's pushing the opponent from mid-screen into the corner. Compare that to the situation before. No combo after this move, so now all of a sudden this gives Seox a lot more utility and potential combo routing for him to experiment with. It's a good buff for him overall. The light version of Snakebite also received a buff. There's less pushback now on hit and on block with it. Before, this would be the situation. You'll note that you're at far medium range in the old patch. This is the situation in the new patch. Seox is now in close medium range. This is a big buff to his pressure off of this move. Don't forget, this is a +2 on block, +6 on hit attack, so he's going to be able to combo off of this, and now he's able to kind of keep his pressure going and maintain his offense. It's crazy to me that they tried to buff Wolf's Howl so that it could compete with Snakebite, but they also gave Snakebite a buff like this. And I also think that people are surprised at this point that most of the changes that we're talking about with Seox are largely buffs, but I do have an explanation for that, which we'll get to at the end of the video. The medium version of Gated Demons on the ground has a couple of adjustments to it. For starters, the mid-air hit stun has been increased by 5 frames, making it a little more reliable to use in anti-air combos. As you can see, you don't really get too much utility off of it in the old patch. Additionally, the lateral knockback has been reduced on it. This also helps with the combo routing like we talked about before, but also improves it in case you somehow finish a combo with it. The knockback here is pretty significant. You're outside of normal ranges and have to take a step in. This is what the anti-air situation looks like now. You get a close medium link. Again, a pretty good buff for Seox. And just to compare the knockback difference, the enemy is still outside of all your button ranges, but you are considerably closer. Maybe you have to take a half step in now. Still, I think that this buff is largely targeted to giving it a little more combo utility, like looking at the anti-air situation we explored. Both the air and ground version of Ultimate Gated Demons have seen some nerfs, namely to their recovery on landing after they whiff. Before, the recovery on whiff lasted 22 frames. If you're able to react to this move, at best, Seox would be eating a throw punish. Meanwhile, he was threatening you with a +2 on block situation or a full combo. The mid-air version used to have only 11 frames of whiff recovery. Again, a very similar situation to the ground version. The ground version has an extra 9 frames of whiff recovery now, totaling 31 frames. This effectively means you're able to punish this with a heavy. It's a similar story for the aerial version, which had an increase of 13 frames to his whiff recovery, going up from 11 to 24. Again, you're able to get heavy punishes. This is obviously a massive nerf to Seox's overall kit. These moves were a huge part of his threat from the neutral game before because they were plus on block, led to full combo on hit, and gave him plenty of damage from it. Now he's effectively gambling on these things being able to work. If the opponent is able to react in time, he's going to be eating tons of damage after he's already received a nerf to the total amount of life that he has in this patch. I don't think we're going to be seeing him throw out these moves as often anymore. They might just be combo filler at this point. Demon Step has a buff, and now launches grounded foes on hit. This means if Seox chooses to use this as a fireball game and hits the opponent with it, he's able to create more space, advance forward, and take more ground while the opponent's in recovery. This does not apply to the new perspective follow-up, which you have to commit to by holding down the unique skill button after you press it. You're still able to combo out of that as well. I just missed the link. Seox's install super, 6 Ruins Enlightenment, has several buffs to it to make it more appealing to him. The effect duration has been increased from 6 frames to 8 frames, and the damage has been increased from 50% of his regular attack strength to 60% of his regular attack strength, so an extra 10% damage overall. The most important buff, I would argue, though, is to the afterimage attacks. They're now 3 frames slower, which means that he has 3 more frames of frame advantage due to this delay. Before off of a close heavy attack, he'd be +3 with this afterimage follow-up. And now he's +6 in this situation. Having an extra 3 frames to work with on block means that he's able to frame trap with far more slower and heavier rewarding normals, while also having 3 extra frames on hit means that he's going to be able to basically do a Build-A-Bear combo system where he's going to be able to link in tons of slower, high damage moves and increase the damage output of this super even further. I'll be interested to see if any Seox player actually wants to experiment with this, but I do have my doubts on it. I think it's time we give an overview on the overall patch for Seox. A lot of people hated fighting against Seox in the previous patch. He had great offense, good damage, good Okazeme, pretty much everything like that, on top of having some of the best ultimate moves in the game where there really wasn't an answer to them. If you blocked the Gate of Demons, he was blessed. If you evaded them, he was relatively safe. And if you got hit, you died. A lot of these changes are buffs to Seox that we've discussed in the patch, but we have to remember that he is one of the main victims of the system mechanic changes. Losing damage from ultimate skills as a starter is a big thing for him, including having some of his best ultimate skills now having a more skewed risk-reward to them that I would argue is almost in favor of the opponent at this point, given how relatively easy it can be to react to these in some situations. Of course, there's still room for them to be used, and especially in situations where the mental stack of neutral can get so high that someone can fail to react and dodge these, and thus Seox can get the same +2 on block situation or still get a good combo going, granted for less health rewards. We have to also remember as well that Seox lost 2,000 HP in this patch, where a lot of other characters are seeing buffs to their combo routing, which means they're going to have more damage, be able to get better corner carry, and put Seox under more pressure overall. Yes, he does have some buffs, but they're away from his ultimate moves in a way to try to make the base character without meter a little more interesting and unique to play. We'll see how Seox goes. I think he's still going to be pretty strong in this patch, but maybe the 2,000 health difference in this upcoming meta is going to be enough to actually knock him down a peg. We'll see where he lands overall.